Hello everybody, welcome to the session. We will start the session in next 2 minutes. All right, let us start the session. Okay, before I start the session, let me introduce myself first. Okay, so before that, you all guys know this training program is related to Azure Data Engineering. The certification name is called as DP203. DP stands for Data Platform. All right. So that is me. My name is Satish Babati. I have about 20 plus years of experience in IT. And then from past couple of years, I'm into full-time training. I train on cloud technologies and on data science and Gen AI. I have curated courses for top edtech companies in India. Okay, so we level up rated 4.7 on Google, approximately around 1,000 reviews. Okay, we continuously try to improve our training program to deliver best to our students, so that it'll be easy for them to do the job once they get, and once they start attending the interviews as well, it is very easy for them to uh, get high paying jobs as Azure data engineers. All right, so now I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, and I'm also Azure Microsoft certified Azure data engineer, and Microsoft certified Azure AI engineer, Azure administrator, DevOps engineer, Azure data scientist, and Azure developer. So these are a couple of certification under my belt related to Azure. Before we start, let us discuss about the agenda. What is that we are going to cover in next around 70-75 minutes. All right. So first of all, we'll understand what is data engineering, and we'll understand why it is easy to work with data on Azure. So basically we'll understand Azure data engineering, the tools and services that is there on Azure, which will help a data engineer to work efficiently with Azure cloud. Next, we'll understand what are the job market in Azure for Azure data engineers, how many jobs are there, what are the salaries, what is the expectation of the companies. Let's say if a company like Deloitte, if they have to hire me as an Azure data engineer, what is that skills they are expecting from me. Okay, so wait for this session. I'll cover this section uh, end of this 60 minutes, because apart from data engineering, right, they're also expecting uh, kind of CI/CD pipelines. Okay, I'll explain you what is CI/CD pipelines, and I'll explain what is that we are going to cover in this particular our training program. Okay, that is what we'll understand, and next we'll understand what are the tasks of a data engineer? Let's say if you get a job as a data engineer, what is the expectation? What is that job task that you need to do on a daily basis? And now before Azure is there is no data engineering. Obviously, there is data engineering before Azure as well, right? Now, what are the tools that are used before Azure? Okay, and what are the equivalent tools? Let's say, for example, if there's a tool called as Kafka, that's an open source tool. Now, what is the equivalent tool on Azure? Okay, we'll understand what are the open source tools and equivalent tools on Azure so that you'll understand the terminology, right? Because it is very important if you're there in data engineering, it is very important to understand the various tools in the data engineering front. Okay, and we will see couple of hands-on demos. I'll cover little quickly a couple of hands-on demos so that it will be clear for you to understand how easy it is to work with Azure Data Engineering. Okay, and then I will show you our course content. Actually, I will show you our course content before we actually go to the demos. So I'll show you what are the topics that we're going to cover, what are the hands-on exercises that we're going to cover, why our training program is the best among all the training companies that is out there who trains on Azure Data Engineering. Okay, and then we'll cover a couple of demos. That is the agenda for this particular session. Okay, now first let us understand what is data engineering. Very simple. Data engineering, it involves designing, building, managing systems for what? To collect data. Why do we need to collect data? To get information, right? Not only collecting, storing and process large data set. So it ensures data is accessible and usable for analytics and decision making. This is the important thing. Now data is important for every company, right? Why it is important? One of the reason is for the decision making. Okay, to do a decision making, data is very important. Okay, so nowadays any decision that we need to make, right, that is based on data. Any decision that we make, that is based on data. And not only for decision making, what else do you think data is important for apart from decision making? You guys can ping in the chat. Data is also very important to run the operations of the company very efficiently. Okay, if I want to run the operations of the company efficiently, then also I need data. Okay, first reason is that data is very important for decision making for any company. Okay, any decision maker, the decisions that they make now are data backed decisions. All the decisions are data backed decisions. So now any decision making is based on data. And to run a company efficiently also I need data. That means what? To run operations of a company efficiently also I need data. For example, let's say a Flipkart, it is organizing a big billion day. Okay, now it has to deliver more number of deliveries in a day when you compare with normal days, right? Now if they don't have appropriate data, it would be difficult for them. So with the help of data, they can deliver or manage the operations of the company very efficiently. Okay, now third important thing of data is products. Nowadays, all the products these companies develop, the new products that they bring into market is also based on data. Now, what do I mean by that? With the help of data, we create new products. Let's look into a simple example. Okay, let's assume there's a company, ice cream company called as the Sweet Scoops. Okay, now this Sweet Scoop wants to make sure they always have the best flavors that their customers love. Okay, but how do they decide what new ice cream flavors to create? Now that information they have to get from the customer, right? Now what do they will do? They will collect the data like sales data, customer feedback and the trends. Now after analyzing, they notice that many customers are requesting for seasonal flavors like strawberry, mango, fruit flavors, seasonal fruit flavors. Now the sales that data shows that summer months have higher sales for lighter fruits. Now, social media trends indicate that unique combination. That means the data they're gathering from multiple sources, it is giving us some information. Now, what do I do with that? I will develop a new product. What here in this scenario for the ice creams, new product is basically a product with a new flavor. Let's say in the summer, I will name the flavor as mango tango. Okay, that is the flavor for the summer. Okay, or else let me say I introduce something called as salted caramel thrill to attract customers looking for something different. Now once I launch this product, I will do testing. Okay, so what uh, whoever comes to the parlor, we offer samples of new flavors and gather the feedback. Once this ice cream parlor is confident that customers will love them, they will add these flavors to the menu. Now, what happened with that? You have happy customers, increased sales, and you have a competitive edge. That is how companies are developing new products with the help of data. So, to summarize, with the help of data, we can make proper decisions, we can run the operations of a company properly, and we can develop new products. So most of the products that are developed with the help of data are 90% successful. Okay, that is the reason data is very very important, and data engineers will ensure this process is done seamlessly by collecting the data, storing the data, processing the data. Okay, that is what in simple what is a data engineering is. Okay, now let us go a little further and understand scope of data engineering. Now it's very obvious that when data is playing a crucial role for a company, whether taking decisions or running the company efficiently or developing the new products, what do you think the scope of data engineers? Obviously, the scope of data engineering and data engineers in the market, they have high demand because as I told you, every business relies on data for decisions and for analytics. Now, skilled professionals are needed to build and manage data infrastructure, making it a crucial and a high paying career for all the data engineers. Okay, I will show you some facts and figures in some time. Now, let us understand what does a data engineer does day in and day out. What is the role of a data engineer? That is what we will look into now. Ideally, there are three things that a data engineer will do. One is that configure, I told you collect, right? How to do the data collection? By doing data ingestion. Okay, so this is one of the tasks of a data engineer, to bring the data or to collect the data. We'll understand why we should collect the data. And next, whatever data that is collected, it has to be stored to to store the data, we need to build a solution. We'll discuss what is that solution. It could be a data warehouse, a delta lake, or a data lake. We'll discuss that in a few minutes. And then data transformation. We'll also discuss what is data transformation in depth. All right. And actually, ideally, these are the three tasks of a data engineer. But nowadays, data engineers are also expected to do some data visualization. Okay, that is the reason I have also put data analytics here. All right. So these are the major tasks of a data engineer. Now, to do data ingestion, they use some set of tools. To perform data storage, they use a couple of tools. To do data transformations, they use a couple of tools. So we'll understand what are those tools that are used. First of all, let us understand what are these terms means. Let us understand what is data ingestion. Okay, what is data ingestion? We can simply say data ingestion is collecting raw data from various sources and moving it to a central repository. What do I mean by various sources? Let's take an example of any company. Now they have a CRM, data in a CRM. We can collect the data from a CRM. Or let's say they have a ERP, or let's say they have data from flat files. They have data from, let's say, tools XYZ. That means companies' data is there in, or companies getting data from multiple sources. Now I want to collect all the data and put into a central repository. That is the meaning of a data ingestion. Okay. Now let's see what is data storage. Now storing raw data, which could be in the format of structure or unstructured or semi-structured data for analysis and reporting. Okay. So now that means basically data is not in one unique format. It is there in a structured format. It is there in an unstructured format. It is there in a semi-structured format. It could be a file like a CSV file. It could be a Parquet file. It could be ORC file. It could be any file type. Okay, that means data is there in multiple shapes and sizes. Okay, so the second job is to how to store this data, which is of different types and different sizes. Now the third job is called as data transformation. So what is data transformation? It is basically cleaning of data, transforming data, and organizing the data to make the data ready for analysis. So now it's not so easy that you bring any data and data is ready for analysis. You have to perform some activities before we generate insights from the data. So those activities, we can cluster them as cleaning of data, transformation, and organizing. We'll understand more details about what is cleaning, what is transforming with a simple example. The next one is called as data analytics. What is that? We all know that there is something called as ETL pipelines we create. So with this, once we analyze the data, if I want to do a visual representation with the help of dashboards, with the help of some reports, with the help of reports from the data, from what data? From the process data. That is basically we can group it as, or we can put in a bucket called as data analytics. Okay, these are the different tasks that is there. One is called as data ingestion, second is called as data storage, third is called as data transformation and analytics. So these are the major tasks that a data engineer will do on a daily basis in his job. So to do these tasks, a data engineer will use some tools. We'll discuss what are those tools in next few minutes. Before that, I would like to ask you guys, if you have any questions, you can put in the chat. I'll be able to take these questions. I'll give you about a minute's time. You guys can put all your questions. I'll answer all your questions. All right, let us go a little further and let us understand about each one of these. What is data ingestion means? We'll understand what are the different solutions where to store the data, because these are the different jobs that I told for a data engineer, right? Ingestion, storage, transformation, and data analytics. Let us deep dive into each of these topics. Okay. Now let's go into ingestion first. Now, a data ingestion, one thing that we understood is that we have multiple sources of data. Okay. Now I'll just explain you, I'll just show you why we need to have multiple sources, how data is stored. Okay. Now let's say there's a company, it has a CRM and it has a ERP. Data is collected from their e-commerce website. They have some marketing tools and they have some sales database. Okay, ideally a company can have around 10 sources or 15 sources. Here I'm just taking an example of assuming a company has 5 sources of data. Okay, now let's first see a CRM. Now if you see the CRM, right? Now let's go to CRM. Now if you see, observe this very keenly, then we'll understand why we need to do data ingestion. Okay, now if you see here, I have the data that I'm getting from CRM. I have two tables from this. One is customer data, one is interactions table. Two tables are there from CRM. So now here in this, what I have in this table, now this CRM table has customer name, it has customer first name, it has customer last name, email, phone number, okay, and customer status. Now if you see the interaction table, it also has the interactions, that means how they have interacted with the help of email, call, or meeting. And we have customer ID. See, this is the customer ID. So that means this customer one, John, he has connected over email also and he has connected over call also. How I came to know? This is the customer ID 1. Okay, remember this, will come back. Now let me go to the next slide. Now if you see this data, where I'm getting it from? This data I'm getting it from a source called as ERP. Okay, in ERP also there are two tables, one is inventory tables, one is order details tables. Okay, now here what I have in the inventory table, what is the product, how many quantity I have, okay, who is the supplier, and here order details, customer 1 order is completed, okay, and total amount is this. Okay, this is the data that is coming from ERP. Now let's look into the next table, e-commerce online sales table. Okay, from e-commerce data I'm basically getting data which is online sales table and product catalog table. So now here customer ID 1, sales, how much he did? 899. He purchased one product, how much quantity? 1. What is the payment method? Credit card. Okay, and product catalog table I have. Next, let's say marketing tools. So what are the different marketing tools that we have, marketing channels that we have, okay, and matrix. Okay, this is the data that I am getting from multiple sources. Now let's say I want to see this customer John D purchased which product. Do I have that information in this table? I don't have it. Do I have this information in this table? I don't have it. But if you see here in this table, I don't have it. But in the orders table, I have that information. The customer sales is this much. Okay, I don't have directly what he purchased also, but I know that this one, and I know the order ID. Okay, and if you go to the next table, I know the product ID. So now if I want to know what product he has purchased, I need to know the product catalog table. That means I need to know, I need to have the table, I need to have this table, and I need to have this table. That means if I want to know what product this customer has purchased, that data is not straight away in one table. It is part of three tables, and those three tables are part of three different sources. Now if you look here, one table is coming from the CRM. Okay, one table is coming from CRM, one table is coming from ERP, another table is coming from here. So now if I want to know that information, which customer purchased which products and how much sales that I have made, I need to have data from all these sources. But these sources are located in different locations. This is there, this data is there in CRM, this data is there in ERP, this data is there in e-commerce, this data is there in social media, and this is there in a database. Now what I need to do if I want to get that information, I need to bring all the data in some common location. Okay, I told you where we can store the data, right? So I need to bring all the data in one common location. That is the reason data ingestion, that is the reason data engineers perform data ingestion to get the insights from data, because whatever data I need to do some analysis is distributed across multiple sources. Okay, so that is the reason data ingestion is important, and we do data ingestion of all the data data collected from different sources. That is what a data ingestion is. Now whatever data that is ingested, we store the data, right? Where do we store the data? There are multiple options. One option is called as data lake. Second option is called as data warehouse. Now there is something called as a relational database. Okay, you can call it, that could be a Oracle database, MySQL server, SQL database, whatever database. That is basically a relational database which used to store structured data. A SQL database basically stores structured data where schema is defined. There is another type of database is called as a NoSQL database. If we have data which is semi-structured, okay, we store the data in a NoSQL database. We'll understand what is a structured data, semi-structured data after a few minutes or in tomorrow's session. Okay, but these are the different solutions where I can store the data. So when I say I have different solutions, now who will build this or who will design this, or building and designing this storage options is one of the job of a data engineer. In which scenario we have to use data lake, in which scenario we have to use data warehouse, okay, or how to use a SQL database or a NoSQL database. If we decide, okay, let's use data warehouse, now I need to design the architecture of a data warehouse, how to build a data warehouse and connect my data sources. That means I told we have multiple data sources, right? Like CRM, e-commerce, ERP, multiple sources. We need to connect those sources to our data warehouse, correct? So that is another task by using these tools a data engineer will do. Now the next one is called as a data transformation. So now what is data transformation? Data transformation is a systematic conversion of data from existing format to a standardized structure. Okay, this process is essentially for ensuring data consistency, improving data quality, and enabling effective analysis across different systems. Now, why this is important? No, I'm not having data in one location, right? My data is coming from multiple sources. When I get the data from multiple sources, everywhere it could not be the same thing, right? So I need to standardize my data to make sure that data quality is good and data is ready for analytics. Now let me show you. So I'm collecting data from multiple sources. Now if you see, all the data type is what? Varchar, varchar, varchar. Now you see sample data. Now let's say this is a customer ID. You see customer ID is something like this. Okay. And you see what is that? There is a suffix AB. I don't need, right? There is inconsistency capitalization. So first name is in small letters, last name is in full capitals. Okay. Now you see this this is date of birth. Now this date of birth is stored as string, but ideally this should be stored as data type as date. Okay. Now phone number, you see there is inconsistency in the formatting. Now this is stored as string. Okay, this is also stored as string, but I want to do the transformations. What transformations I want to do? I want to remove this AB here. Okay, and I want to make this and this in a correct capital letters in correct cases. Okay, and convert this into a date format. You see here it is varchar, and convert standardize the format of the length here. Okay, convert this into numerical rather than varchar. So why varchar is also good? No, why not leave it as varchar? Why we need to change to some decimal values? Because if I want to analyze the data, if all the data type is in varchar, if I want to do some totaling, I'll not be able to do if it is a varchar. I can only do if it is a numerical. So I need to change these data types. I need to clean this data. Now, if you see after cleaning, data might look something like this. You see that AB is removed. Okay. You see proper case, J is capital letter and rest all are small letters. Similarly with the last name. And you see converting the string to date. So this is a transformation, right? Converting a string to date. Now I have standardized this format. You see this has changed into decimal. This is changed into date. Now who will do this? This conversion of or cleaning the data or standardizing the data is also done by a data engineer. How he'll do that? He will do that by using tools. I'll show you in couple of minutes what are the tools that we are going to use to perform the data ingestion, to perform the data transformations, etc. Alright. Now the next part is, now we understood data ingestion, we understood about storage, we understood about transformation and a little bit of data analysis. Okay, let us understand about it. Now data analysis, very simply we can say that it is like scheduling and managing complex workflows and ETL pipelines. And we can add another role here, creating dashboards and reports from a processed data. Okay. Now let's see. Now this graph visually represents the total sales made by every salesperson. By looking at this, I can easily say that, hey, Davis is the person who made more number of sales, right? If I have the same thing in Excel format, I need to go through all the rows and see the column total sales, and then only I'll be able to understand who made maximum number of sales. But here, when I visualize the data with the help of graphs, it is very easy for me to understand. Okay, that is one reason why the data visualization is also very important. Okay, if you look here, here is a combination chart that shows the company budget as bars and average conversion as a lines. So budget versus this one. So campaign A did so many sales, campaign B, campaign C, campaign D. So you'll come to know by using this x-axis, y-axis, we can generate a lot of beautiful graphs. All right. So that is basically about data ingestion, storing data, data transformation, and data analytics. Before we take on next slide, I would like to take a moment here and I request you guys to put in the chat if you have any questions. I will be able to answer any of those questions. All right, let us continue. Now, what we'll do, I was telling you that we use different tools to perform this task, right? Whether it could be data ingestion or it could be data transformation or storing the data, right? So let us see what are the tools that are there for us to do these tasks. Okay. Now, first we'll understand the open source tools. That means without Azure, what are the tools? Okay. Now, if you look here, let's say we have tools like Apache. Okay. This tool is basically used for data ingestion. Apache Kafka. This tool is basically used for capture streaming data, okay, to build real-time pipelines for streaming applications. Apache Spark is unified analytics engine, okay, that is used for processing batch or real-time analytics. Okay. Snowflake, see, it is a data warehouse. A DBT is used for data transformation. Basically, it is called as data build tool. Now, there is another tool called as Apache Airflow. This tool is used for workflow orchestration and scheduling. Now, there is another tool called as Talent. Talent is used for ETL operations. That means to ingest or extract data, to transform data, and to load the data. Now, there is another tool called as Perfect. This tool is used for modern workflow orchestration. Now, Great Expectations, it is a data validation and query assurance. Metabase, it is a data visualization tool. I showed you a graph, right? So using this tool also we can generate graphs. Apache Cassandra, this is basically a NoSQL database. I told you there are a couple of solutions to store the data. One of them is NoSQL database, right? So we can use Apache Cassandra. Now Dusk, it is for parallel computing library. These are the different solutions that we have on data engineering tools, different data engineering tools. Now these tools are there, right? Why do I need Azure then? Now let's say I want to use this tool called as let's say Talent. Okay, I want to use this tool called as Talent. Then what I need to do? This is a tool means nothing but a software, right? So if this software has to work, I need a hardware. So first of all, I have to purchase some server, okay, and I have to install this tool Talent on this server, okay. So after installing it, what I'll do ETL operations. Now I need people to manage this. I need people to manage this. I need to manage the power supply. I need to manage the data center operations, etc., etc. All this is cost, right? So how much it would cost? Even before we do one simple task with Talent, I need to spend some X amount of money. Even though I use it, even though I don't use it also, I have to spend this, right? That means I have to take care of the complete infrastructure. Now let's say I want to work with Snowflake. Then I have to purchase a group of servers because that is a data warehouse. I need multiple servers for that. Let's say I want to work with Apache Spark, data processing, right? Again, I need to create multiple servers. So the infrastructure is going to charge us a lot. Now, this is where the Azure is coming into the picture. Azure is saying, you know what? Don't worry about this infrastructure. I will take care of this infrastructure. Okay. Azure has created this server for us. And instead of Talent, Azure has developed a tool called as Azure Data Factory. Okay. ADF. Now what they're saying, you don't pay me for the server, you don't worry about data center operations, you don't worry about any of these operations, I will take care of them for you. That means there is no overhead. All I will do is that you create a pipeline, and whenever you run a pipeline, let's say you run a pipeline for 1 minute, I'll charge you only for 1 minute. You run pipeline for 5 minutes, I'll charge you only for 5 minutes. That means you perform a task, how much ever your task is taking, I'll charge you only for that. So now all these overheads are gone for me. Managing all this thing is gone. There is no need for me to purchase a server. Okay, there is no need for me to manage all this stuff. All I need to do is that use Azure platform, that is Azure Data Factory, and whatever talent is capable, Azure Data Factory is capable of all of them, or maybe little more than that. But I'm upfront, I'm not paying any charges for that. That is the beauty of Azure. So basically, what is that? Azure is managing the service, right? That is the reason all the services that are used for data engineering on Azure are called as managed services by Azure. Now let us look what are the, let's say if I don't want to use Snowflake, okay, then what is that on Azure I can use? I can use something called as Azure Synapse Analytics. If I don't want to use Apache Unify, then I can use on Azure called as Azure Data Factory. So whatever this is capable, I can do that by using Azure Data Factory. Whatever is Apache Kafka is capable of, on Azure we have a service called as Azure Event Hubs. Similarly, Apache Kafka, we have a service on Azure called as Azure Databricks. DBT, again it is Azure Data Factory. In Azure Data Factory, there is something called as data flows. Apache Airflow, Azure has something called as Azure Managed Workflow for Apache Airflow. Okay. Talent, as I told you, we have Azure Data Factory. Perfect, we have something called as Azure Logic Apps. Great Expectations, we have something called as Azure Preview. Metabase, we have Power BI. Apache Cassandra, we have Azure Cosmos DB, the NoSQL database. Dask, we have something called as Azure Databricks. So these are the Azure native tools. Okay, Azure native tools for data engineering. Okay, so we cover all these concepts and much more in our Azure data engineering training. Now let me show you guys what is our course content and why it is the best. Before that, I would like to give a moment. If you guys have any questions, you can ask me. Alright, let's continue and let me show you our course content and explain you what is that we are going to cover and why it is best. Okay. So now if you see, initially the first we will start with the basics of cloud. So what is cloud, why do we need cloud, etc. We'll understand basic stuff about cloud, and then we'll understand what is big data, what are different types of data, what is structured data, semi-structured data, unstructured data, and we'll understand about what is a data warehouse, okay, data warehouse architecture, what is big data, characteristics of big data, and we'll start learning about Azure. We'll understand how to create Azure account, how to start using Azure with subscription, resource group, etc. Okay, and we will understand about Git repository as well. Okay, we'll have basic knowledge about a couple of services that you need to know about Azure, like Azure Key Vaults, Azure Logic Apps. And then we will work with one of the storage solution which is called as Data Lake. We will work with data lake, how to create the data lake, how to load the data into data lake, how to read and write, how to configure backup and disaster recovery. And then we will work with one of the relational databases on Azure which is called as Azure SQL. We will see how to create Azure SQL database, how to configure elastic pools, compute resources, etc, etc. So we'll understand everything in detail about Azure SQL database. Okay, and then we will work with Azure Data Factory. So we will see the theory of Azure Data Factory, walkthrough of Azure Console, Azure Data Factory Console. We'll understand the components of Azure Data Factory. We'll understand what is the integration runtime. Okay, and then we will see Azure, how to about Azure integration runtimes, and we will start doing the hands-on exercises like creating link services, like creating data sets with various data types like CSV, Parquet, Excel, Avro, JSON. Okay, and then we will create pipelines. Okay, like we'll create new pipelines, we'll create activities like copy data, delete, store procedures, all these things which are there. So these are the maximum number of activities which is there. Okay, and then we'll understand how to run these pipelines, how to perform the transformations like creating a data flow, creating filter transformations, select, sort, aggregate, join, lookup, exist, union, alter, rank, pivot. We'll understand all this. And then we will use some advanced options like parameters, how to create a parameterized data set, how to create a parameterized link service, how to use those parameterized link services and data sets in ADF pipelines, how to monitor jobs, how to use expression language using ADF. There is an expression language in ADF. We'll understand how to use that. And let's say if there's a pipeline failure, how to send notifications by using Azure Logic App. Okay, we'll see how to manage credentials using Azure Key Vault. We will create a Git repository and migrate ARM templates using Git repository. We'll export manually. Okay, and again there are a couple of other activities on ADF, basically scenario based, like how to create link service, data sets, copy activities. These are the different scenarios, mostly real-time scenarios that we will be learning in Azure Data Factory, because this is one of the major tool or service for Azure data engineering. Okay, we'll understand all the scenarios. If you see here, there are more than 25 pipelines, real-time pipelines that we will be working on. And we'll also learn in depth about PySpark, because for Databricks you need to have a knowledge about PySpark. So in Databricks we'll understand basically about introduction about Databricks, what is a DBFS, Databricks file system, how to use dbutils, integrating Databricks with external sources. Let's say there is a data in data lake, how to bring that to Databricks. Okay, how to create a delta lake, what is difference between a data lake and a delta lake. Okay, how to do a cost optimization. And in PySpark we will learn about basically introduction to Python for people who don't know, and then we'll understand about different variables, data types and operators in Python. We'll have introduction to PySpark, and in PySpark we will do the transformations by using cast, select, sort, aggregations, union, join. So all these transformations we will do on RDDs as well as on data frames. Now you can ask me, these things we can do in ADF also, right? Yes, we can do that in ADF also. We can do all that on Databricks also. But in ADF, it is basically codeless. Without writing any code, we can do these transformations. But in Databricks, we write the code by using Python. Okay, and then we'll understand about data warehouse. Data warehouse basically about Synapse. Overview about Synapse, understanding serverless SQL pools, dedicated SQL pools, integrating with data lake storage. Okay, connecting to external sources, connecting to internal sources. Okay, introduction to Spark in Synapse, integrating with Delta Lakes, how to do monitoring and logging. All this we will, and we also learn about security on Synapse. Okay, and we'll also learn about how to work with JSON files on Synapse. Okay, and then we'll connect Azure Synapse views with Power BI tool to visualize the data. Okay, after that we'll also this is a recent addition to our course content, which is called as Azure Service Fabric, because most of the companies are asking engineers that if they are comfortable to work with a service called as Azure Service Fabric. So that is the reason we have introduced Azure Service Fabric also to our Azure Data Engineering. So in this, basically whatever we understood on Azure Data Factory, Azure Synapse, Azure Databricks, we can work with one console called as Azure Service Fabric. So we will look into a lot of things, how to set up a service fabric, understanding cluster nodes and partitions, roles and services fabric, okay, how to configure Active Directory, all those things we will learn part of Azure Service Fabric. And we also have implemented something called as CI/CD pipelines with Azure starting from this batch. Now, why do we have implemented Azure Fabric? Okay, let me tell you. Let me go to LinkedIn. I'll show you a couple of job descriptions. Let's go here. Let's say jobs. Let's say here Azure Data Engineer. Now let's say we got a lot of data engineering roles here, right? Now let me go to this one. Let's say Azure Data Engineer. Now if you see the skill set, right? They're looking for people who are experienced data engineering, specializing in generative AI. Now if I go into the job description, you see experience with CI/CD and DevOps practices is a plus. Okay, now let's say, let me go to another one. Let me go to this one. Now you see here, you should know Data Factory, Data Lake Gen 2, Databricks, Synapse, and familiarity with CI/CD tools. Let me go to this. See here it is PySpark, Azure Databricks. Okay, if I go here, this job they requires ETL, ELT. Let me go to this one. You see they're asking for CI/CD tools. So nowadays, most of the companies, they are expecting the data engineers to also have exposure on CI/CD pipelines. Okay, these are code pipelines. So if you go and look in any of these job roles, you can see that. Okay, so you see CI/CD pipelines. So that is the reason in our course content we also had included CI/CD pipelines to teach a real-time CI/CD pipelines. Okay, so that you'll be eligible to get more jobs. So now our students, our previous students has got placed in a lot of companies. So once you're so what we do is that we basically prepare you guys with the job descriptions that the companies are looking for, so that it will be easy for you guys to get the jobs. Okay, that is about our course. We will send this course brochure to you guys in your WhatsApp. You guys can have a look into that, and if you have any questions you can reach us. All right, now let me show you guys that is about our course offering. And you see that there are a lot of demand for data engineers in the market. I just put Azure Data Engineering. So many jobs has come up with one simple keyword. You see there are so many jobs. All right, so now we have a tool internally that it's a AI tool that is developed by us. Every day it will download us all the jobs that is posted in like all the top job websites in India. So we will keep on sending all those jobs to you on an everyday basis. Basically, we will create an account for you on our tool, and we will keep sending you the job roles to you guys. And every day, I think minimum about 6 to 7 jobs that would be appearing, and you guys have to apply for that. And our tool will also help you the relevant questions they can ask for that particular job description. It is kind of a real-time mock interview. And after that, it will also give you a feedback. Okay, so that is only for our enrolled students. We will show our tool that will help us to prepare for the interviews better. Okay. Now let me show you guys the Azure console and how it will look like. Now if you see, this is how an Azure console will look like. So where there will be your username, where there's a support that you can reach to the Azure to give the feedback, and there's a support based on what support agreement that you have. You can start a chat or you can get connect with Azure support agents. And if you see what subscription you have, what permissions you have, and whatever configuration that you run, right, you will be able to see the configurations here. And this one, you see there's an icon which is basically a shell. If I want to do any operations using CLI on Azure cloud, you can just click on this. You'll be able to see the cloud shell coming up. So the best part is that here you can run a PowerShell commands also. Now if we switch to a bash, that means Linux commands, you can run the Linux commands as well. Okay, yeah, you can run the Linux commands as well. And if you see here, there is all services. Okay, now if I see services related to analytics, you will see Data Factory, Data Lake Gen 2, Azure Databricks. So these are the services we are majorly going to learn. Okay, now there are services related to DevOps engineers. If I want to host an application, there are services. So there is a lot of things that we need to explore on this console that we will look in the tomorrow session. In the tomorrow session, I will introduce you guys to big data, understand different file formats used in big data. We'll understand what is a structured data, unstructured data, and we will do a little demonstration on Azure Data Factory, how to create one of the pipeline, a copy activity pipeline and a simple data flow activity pipeline. I'll show you guys and I'll also demo you one Databricks demonstration. Okay, those three hands-on demonstrations we will see in the tomorrow session. So tomorrow session is also free. You guys can join at the same time for the tomorrow session, which will be more on hands-on exercise so that you guys can understand how a data engineer performs his tasks. Okay, that is the agenda for tomorrow's session. So before I wrap up today's session, I will be there on call for next 5 minutes. If you guys have any questions, I request you guys to ping in the chat. I'll pick up the question and I'll be able to answer the question. Please ping in the chat. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. I can also unmute you. You can also ping in the chat. I can also unmute you. Okay, Dageshwar Rao, you want me to unmute you? Nageshwar Rao, you have raised your hand. Hey, Faraz Sheikh, do you have any questions? I can unmute you if you want. to speak if you have any questions. You can also ping in the chat. All right, then that would be it for today's session. I'll see you guys in the class. Take care. All right, guys.